right, super. I'm going to call this meeting to order, August 24th, 2003, regular session of the school committee. All those that can, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you guys. This is fun. This is my first official meeting as a school committee chair, so I'm excited. So give me some leeway, people. For the love of learning, we haven't started that yet. That's the segment where we're inviting teachers and students to come in and show off a little bit. So that'll resume after school starts, hopefully. So we'll just go right to committee comments. Glenn?
Really only a couple comments I have. Just, best of luck to everyone who starts next week, whether it's kindergarten or a senior in high school. It's a new year, start from scratch for those who are sending their first child to our district. Thank you, and it's okay to cry at kindergarten drop-off. For those sending their son or daughter to senior year in high school, it's okay to cry knowing you're going to have more than likely you'll have college bills to pay next year. The last thing I did, and Pam, thank you very much for giving us access to Parent Square. I happened to read something that Mr. Kohut sent out regarding Representative Moulton's office is seeking volunteers for the Congressional Youth Advisory Council. Even though the application date runs through the end of September, I really would encourage everybody who's interested in whether it's politics, whether it's really anything in public policy, to apply. It's completely nonpartisan, and it's really a great opportunity to really learn how the country works, both on a local and national level. So I hope people take advantage of that. I hope people read their Parent Square, and I appreciate the information. That was really great. Thank you. That's it for me, Suzanne.
Karen?
I don't have anything. That's open to 11th and 12th grade, right? I just wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was 11. I thought it was 11 and 12.
So we got that, but yeah, it does sound.
Juniors and seniors, yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Other than that, no. Summer's drawing to a close, so I'm sure more will be happening. But it's been pretty quiet.
Amy?
I'm just excited to get back into the swing of things. It feels like it's been a while. So I look forward to all the work that we've got to do. I also want to appreciate Parent Square. As a parent, it's been helpful, and I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, especially if this is something. I'm curious if this is going to sort of take the place of the portal for all of our communications. So like when teachers want to communicate with a parent, or if it goes through emails, or if it goes through this Parent Square. I like the format. It's easy to find and know what's going on. So kudos to you and your technology team for rolling that out.
Thank you. Okay, I just have a couple things. First, thank you to Glenn for doing your year of chair and
Thank you.
And seating to me. So I'm excited and hope to follow you.
You'll be great.
Do as well as you did.
You'll be great.
Secondly, I want to thank Mrs. Cobbett and Dr. Bacon for running the new teacher induction that I understand has one more day. I got the privilege of going on Wednesday morning to see the new teachers and say a few words, which I'm not really sure why they want to hear from the school committee other than just to see a face, I guess. But it was really fun to look at the audience and see such young, enthusiastic people. And the agenda for this induction thing was like 5 pages long and was so jam-packed of really, really meaningful things. So I think that their heads are probably spinning now. But that was great, and that was fun to be invited to. Parent Square, that was definitely on my list of things that were exciting to look at. And I have access, like we all have access to every school, so I was like busy just seeing what every school was writing, so that was fun. For you guys on the committee, I got an email from the town administrative assistant that there's a charter review happening, and in our folders, I don't think we need to discuss it because the town charter doesn't have much to do with the school. But I highlighted in our folders, I highlighted 2 sections that maybe we have something to do with. So if you guys want to look at that and just provide me with any feedback if you think anything needs to be revised. There's a budget date, and Cheryl will weigh in on that one. But you don't have to do it now. We can just do it at your own time. It's just due by September 10th if we want to suggest any revisions. But I just want you guys to be aware of that because I never put it on the agenda, and so we can't really talk about it. The next thing is, I just want to let people know that we've updated our public comment and moved it to the middle of the agenda, or more towards the end actually, so that our agenda's going to move so that we discuss and deliberate and hear reports for the bulk of the meeting, and then we allow public comment so people can either comment on that or say something that might, that they want us to hear before we take a vote, and then we'll be taking votes on all the motions at the end. So I just want people to know the same policy is in place. If you want a public comment, there's a sign-up sheet down here that you can sign in at with your name and your address. If you're at home on Zoom, there's a chat feature, and although I don't see it up right now, there will. The question and answer feature. You'll sign your name in there, and we're not going to monitor the question and the answers, so don't ask questions because there will be no answers. But for the first 15 minutes or so of the meeting, if you want to sign in there, that's the sign-up sheet for people who are on Zoom. So we'll call on who has ever signed up there. That way we know your name and that you want to speak, so that we leave enough time or
My suggestion is to add that information about public comment from Zoom onto our agenda, under the dial-in information.
Yes.
I know that there are protocols or, a suggested,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
but like on the second page perhaps where it's the virtual meeting access, that it has some directions
Yeah,
there.
that's a great idea. I'll do that, or I'll write something for Nancy to add.
Because I would imagine that, most of the people are not watching this tonight, and
Yeah, I figure I'll probably have to say this a few times, but it's a
Yeah.
good idea to write it. You're right.
Right.
Thanks. Down with that. Superintendent's report.
Okay, do I have permission to share my screen on this? Apparently I do. There we go. So there is a different format that Ms. Wright and I spoke about in terms of the agenda. And so the first 1, 2, 3, 4 items are a part of my report. But if you click under Superintendent's report, I have a more formal report than in the past. And I'll take you through this document. This will be posted on the webpage on the district website tomorrow, as I was doing historically in the past when they were in writing. Last night, I had the privilege of attending an interfaith leadership conversation that was called together by Detective Ted Delano and Police Chief Casada, who invited me to attend with some interfaith leaders of the community to talk about recent hate events that have happened. I took Mr. Kalishman with me as the middle school principal because some of the incidents we know have been of juveniles, and also school resource officer Brian Wilson was there as well. The incidents that were brought up were things that we knew about and things that we handled, but the point of the conversation was to figure out, first of all, if there were incidents we didn't know about, and so people were sharing if there were, and also to talk about, what we could do to potentially come up with some solutions and make our community stronger. District Attorney Paul Tucker was there as well. He was a guest speaker. We spoke, Mr. Kalishman and I, about the things that we do at school. The Big Blue Awards that are given out for doing things, the right thing when nobody's looking, our ADL high school students coming down and training our middle school students, the big Holocaust unit that's done in 8th grade, going to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. on the Washington, D.C. trip. But what it came down to, and Rabbi Yossi said this, is that we can do all the education in the world. It does start at home, and we have to figure out how we make those community connections to really strengthen the community as a whole. They did bring up the idea of potential tip line, anonymous tip line, which would be helpful. I equate that to the bullying reports that anybody can go online and fill out, but it was a really great event where I was happy the school was represented, and I was happy to be there. Speaking of school committee Parent Square training, Ms. Mackie-Knowles has offered to train the school committee a little bit, maybe at 5 o'clock before the next school committee meeting, if that works for schedules. So she would meet at 5 o'clock on September 14th with all of you and take you through it, so you could learn the basics of it.
Of what?
Of Parent Square?
Oh, of Parent Square.
Yep. As to your question, it's really interesting. It is supposed to be the main external tool for communications. We are having some confusion right now with, well, are we still using Gmail or are we using Parent Square? And the idea being that Gmail is used as an internal communication tool, and Parent Square would be that external. But it's really kind of fun learning together, because I think you all know how much I admire Mrs. Mackie-Knowles, and when she's texting me questions to help her out, I'm thinking, wow. So we're all learning, and I've sent notices, and what is the difference between a notice and a post, and you can pin your post, but what Ms. Mackie-Knowles and I did this week, was it this week? It was still this week. We met with the athletic department, because there's been a lot of concern that the athletic department hasn't used it. As of this week, they will be using it as their communication tool as well. It is a district initiative, therefore every department will be using it. So moving forward, they were more than willing, and those communications for athletics will be coming out that way. I know they did one early, I want to say early July. We hadn't rolled out Parent Square, so I did receive some emails that, why aren't they using Parent Square? And we hadn't had an official training, so moving forward, everybody will be using it.
Is the athletic department under the district? Like, how they're separated by school and then district? Or is the athletic department its own?
They're not a separate department right now. They probably would come under district, the way it's set up. And again,
Just curious.
Mrs. Knowles is working with them, and I think, every time we go with a different department or somebody has a question, we're learning more and more, and things are changing. So I do know I've received some great feedback from parents about, the welcome back letter, the elementary school council letter. I think it's great.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Pam, so it's a two-way communication tool? Us and parents, or just one-way communication tool?
We're trying to keep it one way, but I can't say that. It's a two-way if we get into teachers emailing parents through that, then I imagine it would be a two-way. In the perfect world, they say, oh, you can text a parent, and the parent can text you back, and no phone numbers are shown. But we're still learning that piece of it, so I'm not real confident with my answer. I believe it is meant to be a two-way communication tool, so that the Gmail we would use would just be internal, and the communication would be both ways through Parent Square.
So could it, if a parent wants to reach the chair or one of us, do they do Gmail? Do they do Parent Square? If they do Parent Square, are we notified that there's a message?
We haven't gone that far with Latanya. I would, what's publicized for you guys is your Gmail accounts.
Right.
So I think what I was asking Latanya for access for you is more for you to see the communications that are going out.
Perfect.
Because if you recall, when I sent something through Aspen, I would, either if you were a parent, you would automatically get it. If you weren't, I would CC you.
Right.
And so I said to Latanya, so now I'm copying it into a Google Doc and sending it. Is there a way to add you so that you see all the alerts that are going out? And that's what I think she was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is the ability to put contact emails in there, because she put my contact email there under my profile. So if you look on district, you can see right at Swampscott K12. So I'm sure.
I think that's a question
So
for
I'm
her
sure.
during the training. Like,
Right.
what
Right.
are the committee's needs?
Right.
What do you want, and how do we set it up?
Right.
But it's funny. It must have taken me a good half hour to get out that family letter, only because I missed a button. I kept missing the same button. Forget to scroll down.
Right.
Like, what am I doing wrong? So it's been really interesting. And I think I've said to you all before, and I put this in my first post, it's been very invigorating to learn something new and to be trying it out. And it really kind of gives you that shot in the arm, like, oh, this is good. And it benefits our families. So, I mean, that's the most important thing, I think. I wanted to give you a brief summary of our leadership retreat. As you know, every summer I hold a leadership retreat with my principals, assistant principals, and department heads, which are directors. And we held our leadership retreat on August 9th and 10th for, from 8 to 4 each day. We held it at the high school, which was great. And we had about 12 different sessions. I've listed who presented. There are colleagues presenting. There was only one session where Sperling Interactive came in to present to us. But other than that, it is colleagues presenting to colleagues. And, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about things that worked, things that didn't work in the last year, things we want to change, and looking ahead to this year. And I personally am so excited about the year ahead. The team that was sitting in that library for 2 days, we're all rowing in the same direction, and it feels really, really good. But a few of the highlights that I want to share with the committee that you may request presentations on at some point are I Love You Guys, creating hugs, and reviewing our SPS brand, which we did at the school committee workshop. So I Love You Guys is going to be our new standard response protocol, which is going to take the place of ALICE, if you recall, the ALICE training we did, which was alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. It's known to be a gentler version of ALICE because they use different language. And this is going to be a multi-year rollout where we're introducing it after the convocation as a whole on Monday to the teachers. Then they're going to go back and do drills. The common language, it's a simpler language. It's not, they don't believe in barricade. We still do the evacuate. But what happened is I cut the retreat down to 2 days because the week before we had an invitation for a Train the Trainer model at the Reading High School for the I Love You Guys. I had signed up 9 of our administrators. Only 7 ended up being able to attend for 2 days because it's really their responsibility to roll this out in their buildings. I did not send Mrs. Longan or Miss Powers, so I sent Craig Harris and LaTanya Mackey, and they'll be supporting the Blaney School and rolling out these drills on Monday. But the name of this, it breaks my heart every time I read this, the name of this program stems from an incident on September 27th, 2006, where a gunman entered Platte Canyon High School in Bailey, Colorado. He had held 7 girls hostages and ultimately shot and killed Emily Keys. But during the time that she was held hostage, she texted her parents 2 messages: I love you guys, and I love you guys, Kay. And then she was killed. So this foundation was formed in her honor, and it was put together by, the program was put together by the foundation who really lived this. So it's pretty intense. But as I said, one of my goals this year, and it's not in my actual written goals this year, is that, you know, we went through the pandemic. I believe everybody was just trying to survive. And one of the entire leadership team's goals this year is that everybody becomes a district leader. And so I remember back in the day when I was principal at Stanley, I was also, you know, curriculum director for English language arts at the elementary level. So we talked a lot at the retreat about, you're not just a building leader, you're a district leader, and you're an instructional leader, and whatever initiatives we're doing, you're leading by example in your buildings. And so that's why I invested the money to send almost 9 administrators to this training, because now everybody owns it at their building and they can support each other. So we're excited to roll it out. But this year, we're only rolling out the common language and the drills. There's a whole reunification piece to this, as we saw happened at St. John's Prep in the spring, and so it will be a multi-year rollout. I don't know if you want to ask questions or.
I'd love to. What triggered it? Why the change?
Officer Wilson, as an SRO, was introduced to this through NEMLIC, is the organization, I can't remember the acronym, I know, that when a tragedy happens, he's part of a team that goes out to different high schools and helps mitigate that, and so NEMLIC introduced it to them, and he brought it back and was actually so excited by it, said it's something that we need to invest in. If you go on the website I shared with you, there are all kinds of resources and materials. There's actually a poster, 8.5 by 11 poster that we have sent to Staples to be laminated, to be put into those plastic little sleeves in each classroom.
The emergency.
Yep, so they're gonna be part of that. We'll be rolling that out. We are planning, Officer Wilson is planning a family night in the fall so that parents can attend and learn about it as well. But, we've said multiple times since we worked with the Essex County Learning Collaborative that you have to go slow to go fast. We don't want to overwhelm anyone. We're going to do the same drills we always did. We're just going to reinforce a language and some standard language pre-K to 12. So Officer Wilson and Ms. Mackie-Knowles presented on that, and it was great to have 7 other leaders in the room that went to the training.
I know from feedback from teachers in the past that the Alice drills were pretty traumatic. How was the feedback from your team when they were trained?
The feedback from the team that they have a heightened sense of urgency, but it wasn't the banging on the doors, the trying to get in the doors. It wasn't, so it's different. They feel a sense of urgency in rolling this out and coming up with a common language. And so I also spoke with Rebecca Buckland, the Swampscott Education Association union president, and I have suggested and offered that I would send their executive board to a training that's coming up in November. Because when my team went to the training, they sat with union leadership from other districts, and the union leadership said, now I understand the sense of urgency. And so at the least, Becca and I said that we'll send 3 e-board members, 1 at each level, because they can really see the investment. One of the things we're debating right now, and I haven't brought this to the committee before, and can't believe I'm just saying it now, but we have a really special district. There's no doubt that our district is special. And part of that is that we really truly are a family. And over the years, we're such a family that if you come to the high school during the pep rally before Thanksgiving, teachers bring their own children in. If you go to the middle school on the volleyball games, they have their own children. I have a problem with that in the year 2023. We're getting swatting calls, we're getting all kinds of threats. And so I worry about that tradition. Well, I will say that Mr. Kohut, I'm not speaking out of turn, brought his children in, his boys in, for the pep rally. It's a special day, it's a fun day. After going to this training, he said, the time is done. We can't do that. And so we're talking with union leadership about, in the 90s, when I first started teaching, that's great. We didn't have what we have now. On any given day, there's a threat, there's a call, there's a shelter in place. Even if there's a shelter in place for a medical reason, now you have to explain that to your own children. And so I don't think there's a need to create a policy. I love the family feel that we have, but I think the time has passed. We're in a very different place than we were. So that's a conversation that will continue. This next thing is, this next session, I shouldn't say thing, is something that every year Mrs. Knowles and Ms. O'Donnell present tech time. And they did several pieces of tech time, but they showed us dashboards that can be created. And they're called hubs, so creating a hub. And if you take a look, the high school has already jumped into this. They created a hub that is core instructional strategies for their teachers. So as we talk about the core plan later in this meeting, which is our district strategy, we came up with some core practices as a leadership team that we want to see in every classroom in the district. And so as part of that, they said, well, if I'm going to ask for core practices, then I'm going to give you resources. And so Mrs. O'Donnell helped them organize this, and this is something you can create it for teachers, you can create it for students. It's a different way to do a dashboard. Now, if you recall, Assistant Superintendent Mrs. Raymond did one of these for special education. We didn't know it was called a hub, but the fact that we were trained on this a couple weeks ago, and our high school team has already built one, and they're excited by it, and they're excited to unveil it to their teachers, is a testament to the training that we got.
So where does something like this reside?
On their web, probably in a joint folder, a shared folder. I'm thinking the high school has a shared folder, a shared drive,
Yeah.
and they probably go into the shared drive and open this. I see that it says mock-up, so they probably haven't even released it yet, but the way Ms. O'Donnell rolled it out, it's so easy to do, and the fact that they went back and just did this was amazing.
Is there a way for you and your team to get a sense of how many people are using it?
Like a counter?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Be
That's a great
interesting.
question.
So
That's a
that,
great question.
you know, so that for the people who are building it, their work isn't for naught.
Right. Are people utilizing it? I always wanted, even like on, I'm having trouble even. I always wanted like a counter even on our website. Like, are people really utilizing it?
Well, we have that.
We have a counter at the bottom of our website.
No, but
It's
that-
invisible,
That data,
yeah.
that data's available.
Yes.
Oh.
But I always would like to see how many hits you get. Back in the day, we called them hits, you know. But I don't know the answer to that, and I will find out. And then the third highlight, for those that don't know, the school committee knows obviously because we did this at the workshop, but Sperling Interactive came and showed our logo and our tagline and solicited feedback from the group of 19 people I had in that room, and it was really interesting, just as it was at the workshop, to hear different people's perspectives and opinions. And so I believe today we selected the final one.
I saw your drum roll.
My drum roll, please. I was, sometimes I concede to things that I'm,
Are you
Anyway.
gonna share?
no. Are we sharing tonight?
I don't, do you want me to, pull that one up?
Sure. Let me stop sharing. I didn't know if we were.
I mean,
I mean, are you ready to
I
like
think
speak
it's-
about it?
I think it's not 100%
Okay.
because there's some discussion about the S, right? Size of the
The
S.
size of the S.
All right. Yeah,
Um,
probably better to do it like when you feel like,
Yeah, I
You can
think it's a
only
little too
speak to
soon.
it.
Wait till you're sure.
yeah.
But I actually shared it with the administrative assistants in my office, and they were in awe. They're like, oh, I can see this, I can see that.
Oh, God.
Love the tagline. And so, yeah, we'll have a special unveiling of that, I think. Special unveiling. The next thing I wanted to talk about is elementary transition planning. It is in the very infancy stages, but I just wanted to share with the public, because I shared my post with the committee, that even last spring I was thinking about, as we move towards a joint elementary school, thank you, we should really move towards one PTO, one elementary PTO. And so in March, when I met with the joint PTO leadership, we talked about the potential of merging budgets and merging into one now. And then they investigated between March and August and found that they can't do that until the Swampscott Elementary School actually opens. But we scheduled a meeting. I scheduled a follow-up meeting in August, and we had the elementary principals there with us as well. And the goal of that meeting was to become much more unified in, are they doing phone directories? Are they doing enrichment programs? Are they doing cultural arts being enrichment? Are they doing PTO after-school classes? To really give our students unified experiences across the district. And the main goal for me was to go through their calendar for the year and almost monthly come up with an event that would be done jointly. And so I have a list of those, but just for the public's knowledge, for example, the trunk or treat will no longer just be done by one school, it will be all 3 schools. One for me, field day, there is no reason why we can't do a joint field day down at Bloxage Field, and Mr. Knowles was super excited about it already. I was talking about it at the retreat, and he's texting the PE teachers about how they'll break it down into K-2, blah, blah, blah. So I will say that because I put it on the agenda, the PTO came all organized and everything was done, and there are joint events throughout the year. So it's really gonna be, that's one piece of a transition plan. And then it goes to show how the repercussions of the pandemic still exist, because I started talking about school councils, and I'm talking, and all of a sudden somebody said, I don't know what a school council is.
Right.
So when you talk about, we have our school improvement plans, so I said, I'll send you all the information. I explained to them what school councils were, what their roles and responsibilities are, and how the development of a school improvement plan is really significant, and that whoever joins the school council, and it's separate from the PTO, would be developing the elementary school improvement plan for the 24-25 school year. So I did send out to all the families saying that if they were interested, to please reach out to their principals. We will have equitable representation from each of the elementary schools. The 3 principals will lead that, but I believe like 2 teachers, two parents, a community member, whatever the number is, it will be equal, and they'll be working together. And Suzanne, you and I have talked about potentially organizing some of the transition needs through this avenue, but I've also met with our Director of Facilities, Max Casper, and we're starting to categorize transitions that need to happen, because some we're just gonna have to own. And so we're starting to dump ideas into, drop off and pick up. Should that really be the school councils, or should that be a separate? Furniture moving, just everything. There's lots of little buckets. So we're at the infancy stages of transition planning, but we did get 30-yard dumpsters to the schools over the summer, and we already started cleaning out, encouraged people to clean out. I believe this is a little bit different because Stanley's was being raised almost immediately, but we are still, we had a lot of cleaning out going on this summer, just in anticipation of that. So that felt good. I'll stop there for any questions. Okay,
I don't know how you keep it all straight.
I have to write it down.
The transition stuff is gonna be really interesting, because there is so much the school has to own. Like, there is so much the school has to own. The drop off and pick up alone is gonna be hours and hours of tactical discussions. But I think the school improvement plan and the goal of the school councils is about the climate in the school. I think it's really important that they figure out ways to bring all the kids together, and to get excited about their school, and then feel comfortable in their school.
Right.
Like, sort of before, during, and after.
Yeah, create that feel that we intended when we built it. Right.
Yeah, I think that is a really important goal.
But also recognizing, because I was so enthusiastic, and I had my principals push back a little bit, like, oh, they should have a joint moving on. Hadley needs to say goodbye to Hadley.
Yeah.
Clark needs to say goodbye to Clark in the same way that Stanley had the ability to do that. So we're going to be trying to make them all feel like one going into the school, at the same time honoring the school that they've been in.
Right.
It's going to be a real balance. So just knowing that a year ahead has got us thinking, and I think we have a lot of people to work on this. So it's exciting.
It was interesting for me to listen to this, because it really kind of brought me straight back to when my kids were in elementary school, and actually when Karen and I first met one another as and Gargi, who is no longer with us, but we were
Well, she's with us.
on the PTA. Sorry, with us.
Thank you.
With us.
On the committee.
But we started at the PTO level at the same time, and it was, we all tried to do the right thing and involve one another and collaborate, but really in the end wound up all just going off and doing our separate things. So to hear that this is happening and that they're actually working together is very exciting in my eyes. And one of the first PTA meetings that I remember was sitting in the basement of Stanley, and I can't remember if it was you or if it was our previous superintendent was there talking about this. I think it was you as the principal, talking about the school improvement plans and the council, and we were all there electing whoever that person was. And I remember thinking, I have no idea what she's even talking about. Isn't this the PTA?
Mhm.
So I think probably doubly, triply because of COVID. I would imagine that there are a lot of parents out there who really have no idea that not only is this such a great tool, but it's also the law.
Right. And I think you seeing the notice that I sent out, which is linked here, defining that this became about, because, I mean, I remember when Suzanne was on the Hadley School Council, and I think Mrs. Longham was the principal at that time.
No,
Oh,
Mr. Vanderels.
Mr. Vanderels, wow.
Right?
But it's been so long since anyone has articulated the way I did in that email, the responsibilities of it. So it was eye-opening to see. It was like in a classroom full of students that didn't want to ask a question, and they're like, I think Jeannie Pats finally said, I don't know what you're talking about.
I was going through the policies that we have to eventually go through, and I saw there's something specifically saying it's a principal's responsibility to have this
Yes.
done. I mean, it's part of their,
Yes. I actually pulled up, I went down a rabbit hole and pulled up the actual Ed Reform Act of 1993 and
yeah.
started reading through and just doing a find to find the words. It's that building-based management. And I've often had principals push back and say, building-based management. But we went through a pandemic where they were looking for us to lead them.
Yeah.
It wasn't building-based management during the pandemic. It was, how are we going to get through this? What should we do? And trying to shift back to, okay, you can make that decision.
Right.
But at the same time, you can make that decision for your building, but the elementaries, it's different. Keep in mind, you're going to be one building, so kind of keep your neighbors.
So go back, but don't go
Yes,
all the way back.
exactly. So I think, as I said, there's a lot of exciting things happening, and the fact that the leadership at each of the PTOs has been present and active and collaborative, it just has been really good.
It's
Really
great.
good.
It's great.
I will continue to insert myself, they know that, but,
And so do we have a timeline for school councils getting together and maybe, I really think it's important that they present to us, in the October timeframe, like before
so
the
they need
budget?
to be formed in September, that was my expectation. And so they're gonna need to at least have a couple, I would say probably end of October they could come before school committee, because I know that, one of the elementary principals told me already that she's had some parent volunteers contact her.
Oh, good.
So, I would like them up and running. September's tricky because they have their curriculum nights and all of that, but my expectation is it's formed by the end of September. They can have their first meeting by beginning of October, and then, I have the district strategy, I have my goals, they should be able to come up with some goals. So that's our
I
time
just
frame.
think, their goals are all gonna be related to transition, like that
Right.
transition goal, but I think it's really important that they talk about, what they might need from the budget,
Right.
like a
Mhm.
staff member maybe,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
just stuff that they might need.
Well, the other thing we have to consider when you talk about pickup and drop-off, we have to have a serious conversation and budget conversation about busing.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does that impact budget? So, we're in a situation now at the elementary schools where last year was our first year busing over to Blaney and Hadley, and because we only had 33 students that were 2 miles or more, we filled the bus with 1.9 miles, 1.8 miles. Well, now we have parents saying, why aren't we allowed to go on there? Well, because we grandfathered in those kids last year with their siblings, so busing is very complicated.
Like a seed.
Pardon me?
Like a seed,
Mm-hmm.
not grandfather.
I'm sorry, legacy. Yes,
Yeah, anyway, I think
you're smiling.
Go
A lot of balls in the air.
Lot.
I feel like I'm juggling every day. So the next two pieces, I think, are really important. They come from the school committee workshop where we talked about district strategy. And for those that don't know, district strategy or a strategic plan is a multi-year plan that a district should have that outlines the priorities or district goals for the school department. And, you know, I'll say this publicly because I said it at the workshop, that we've been working so hard on this core plan that when I actually sat down to think about what are the priorities of the district, they're already written. So what I shared with the school committee is, I don't know, the new version might be 26 pages, but it is a plan that we have been working on since basically 2017. And it is our core plan, but I want everyone to know that it is really our district strategy. I'm just always going to refer to it as our core plan. And so I have a brief presentation here. What I do want you to know is that, I need to get my share up, sorry. How come I can't find my share now?
Want me to share something?
Yeah, can you share that core plan? I don't know what I did to my screen. Oh, I know what I did to my screen. I took off my Zoom. There we go, I got it.
I'm sorry.
Nope, it's okay.
At the agenda.
So what, as I sat down to put this together too, we have so many pieces to this. There are a couple of things. First thing I did, I handed out to you tonight, is the one-pager. So the one-pager is a very short version of this massive document I gave you. The document I gave you has 2022, 2023 action plan steps, and the way that we did it is we broke down into committees for each of the priorities and focus areas, and on September 19th, we're meeting as an entire group to establish the 23-24 action steps within this document. So when you look at this and it says, you know, completed or not completed, we will be updating this document again come our September meeting. So what you need to know is on this one pager, that's what's available to families. There's a little bit of debate. This says curriculum review and revision. Dr. Bacon and I talked about this should say curriculum and instruction, so we're still tweaking some of these. But I do want to share with you the highlights of this. So how did we get here? And much of this, I could go back and check school committee agendas, and Dr. Bacon presented this multiple times, but now I hope I took just the salient points and put them all into one presentation. So back in 2017 to 2020, we worked with the Essex County Learning Community, and that's where we first started talking about cultural competency. And we did a staff survey, and those links are within this presentation and document. And then in 2019 through 2021, we did a safe and supportive school needs assessment and action plan. These were all building up to where are we going, what are we doing? And at the time, if you recall, there was discussion to have a joint DEI director between the school department and the general government. And as much as that sounded great, my position was, I don't really know what we're trying to do yet. And I think we need to be educated. And so in 2020 to 2021, we did a lot of training on our leadership team. Some people did a METCO-sponsored training called RIDES. There was another one called Understandings. But what 21 of us did in this district is this SEED training, and I'm not going to bring it up. It's basically Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. And it was an intense, I forget how many days, maybe 12 days, 3 hours a day, every session, on basically looking at your own biases that you're not even aware of, your own experiences. And now we're rolling that training out in different sessions with our faculty. So we did some of it last year, others are going through it this year. It's called our core work. And then from April to October of 2021, we started to do a DEIB plan development. If you recall, it was diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Belonging for us is a big piece of this. So these were all steps to figure out where are we going and what are we doing. And then we developed a vision statement. And the vision statement is around core. Community of belonging, opportunity for all, respect for diversity, and equity for everyone. And so we envision a school community in which we all feel welcomed and represented. Swampscott Public Schools embrace and celebrate diversity and ensure that students, families, and staff work together in inclusive settings to promote equitable access to opportunities and equitable student outcomes. We envision a school community built on respect for ourselves, each other, our schools, and our environment. Swampscott Public Schools explicitly and intentionally commit to equity, anti-bias, and anti-racist education that is meaningful and visible in decision-making. And so that is our vision statement of this core plan. It's on the front page that you have of the massive document. I just thought for this presentation I would highlight. So we have 4 priority areas: curriculum instruction, professional learning, policy, practices, and structures, and district and school culture. We've talked about multi-tiered systems of support, social emotional learning, universal design, that all falls under these 4 priority areas. I'm not going to read them to you. Certainly anyone that has the agenda or this PowerPoint can take a look at it. But priority 1, and this is what I took directly from this one-page document, has two focus areas for the 23-24 school year, because within each of the priorities in the larger document are articulated focus areas. So our goal for 25-26 under curriculum and instruction is that 90% of students, families, and teachers will report that the curriculum and pedagogy of the Swampscott Public Schools meets our definition of culturally responsive and sustaining education. So we had 2 focus areas for this: expand opportunities for core learning among students beyond the classroom, and develop and implement common expectations for culturally responsive, sustaining instruction. So this is kind of the Cliff Notes version of what's in here, and that's, those are the connections we're making. What I do want to, I lost my train of thought completely. I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions for that and how I'm just kind of highlighting it?
Is green supposed to be 23-24 or 25-26?
No. So the goal by the end of this plan, which goes 25-26, so I gave you the end goal and what our action areas are for 23-24.
I see what you're saying.
So if you look at this document, that's,
Right.
this is the end goal, and then this is how we're getting there. But again, I need you to remember that September 19th is an important date when the entire committee is going to get together and talk about, all right, let's break these down into action items. And what are those action items going to look like? So I'm going to come back to the committee and bring you the updated big version and show you what the actionable items are.
And we can see in this plan what you did for 22-23.
Yes, yes, yeah. You can, and even 21-22, right. I went down the rabbit hole of looking at 21-22, what was accomplished. So this is just very, very similar format. You can look at it on the back of the one-pager. I lifted it straight from here to kind of give people that are interested in looking for this or looking at this an easy way to do it. What I also want, this is what I was going to say that I don't want to forget. I'm going to show you that you can go to our website and there's an entire core plan page, where these documents are available for everybody. So I did the same for professional learning. I did the same for policies, practices, and structures for those people that do not have the one-pager yet, and district and school culture. What I also want to highlight, which has been highlighted here at the school committee meeting before, is we developed equity questions. And those equity questions are things that, I know Dr. Bacon has said this before, when we're making decisions about anything related to students, we take a look at these, or even going into a meeting, we start with, you start or end with these questions. Is this equitable? Does this increase diversity and promote belonging? And does this strengthen our relationships? So then we have, I actually tested to see if this would work. I had a custom-made large sticker that's in my office here at the high school. And then the vision of a graduate we have laminated in every classroom here at the high school. But one of my goals is to bring it down to the elementary schools and the middle schools and find out how do these competencies, how are they demonstrated in the other levels as well. That's not going to be a one-year goal, it's going to be a multi-year goal, but I would love to go back. I have to find the invoice from the company that I got to have these huge stickers on the walls, like to remind us that when we make decisions about curriculum or we make decisions about programs, that we're really keeping the equity questions in mind.
I mean, we should have that as a school committee as well
Mhm.
for our decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I just brought those two graphics up, which I know you've seen before, to remind us, because one of the things I've said to you individually and not necessarily collectively is that the high school team, administration team, worked really hard last year to tie the high school awards to these competencies, and not just, remember the award ceremony where 250 awards were given out and it was for participation in gym? Well, now it was based around the competencies. And I know that their goal, because I've sat through their content leader interviews this year, is that how are they assessing these competencies? And so that is a goal that the high school, the entire high school staff and faculty and staff will be working on. But so you have the large document, there have been some presentations. I thought that I'd just start with a large overview, and then as we continue to update this, I'll be bringing it back more often, so it becomes more common and more frequent updates for the committee, but I will take any committee questions.
No, that's great.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Like, when we do love of learning,
Mm-hmm.
it would be really great for everyone who comes to, at every level, to talk about a competency. Like, you know, like, these kids are learning public speaking, or they've learned problem solving through this.
Oh, it
Like, I think the
connects, right.
kids need to start learning the language and
The only thing I would ask is that you give me time to, and my administrators, time to roll it out at the other levels.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, but the teachers that are coming here, we
Mhm.
can just talk about, you
Mhm.
know, can you
Sure.
frame your presentation
Mm-hmm.
and talk to your kids about this like, you know, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but I think it's
Right.
really important for the kids that are doing the presentation to understand, you know, they're showing this off. They're showing this off because it's a really cool project, but it's also, it's their growth towards being a graduate.
Absolutely.
So to that end, I would say that, you know, rolling it down is probably as important. And when I say down, I mean to the students, as
Yes.
important as the administrators, because from a high schooler's perspective, it's really like, I know that the kids see these, but I don't think that they're living it the way that it's easy for us to look at that and feel proud of it,
Mhm.
and proud of all of the work that went into it. So we know what it represents, but I don't think the kids do.
No, that wasn't what I was saying. I was saying having the discussions with my administrators, to have the discussions with their teachers, to have the discussions with their students.
Yeah.
So, yes, part of the struggle, they did this work, and Mr. Kohut and Mrs. Finn are saying they really need the teachers to own it
Yeah.
and to believe it, and that it's not going away and it's not a pretty graphic, this is what we stand for. And so they're trying to find ways, like having the discussions about how you assess it. What is this competency? How can it be demonstrated? A lot of the conversations and the interviews with the content leaders was, okay, literacy. How does literacy show up in biology, and teaching kids that literacy, reading and writing, is not just in English class, it's in every class. And so a lot of healthy discussions have occurred. It's gonna take time. You know,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
happens overnight, but I agree with you. It's not just a pretty graphic, oh, it's clever. No, this is what we stand for, and this is what we need to start not holding people accountable, but having people discuss. So I like that idea, Suzanne, of tying it back to the competencies.
Yeah, I just think the earlier you start talking about it, everyone has that, you know, we talk about the common language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an understanding that there's an end goal here in their path to success.
I don't really have a question, but what I'm struck here, especially as I look around at some of the districts that around us, I want to acknowledge that I feel like we have a particularly strong district because of some consistency in leadership. So obviously, I thank you for that. You know, as you started this out, of like, where did we get this and how did we get there here? I'm particularly proud of the fact that this is not something that somebody from the outside came in and said, this is what's important to us, and we're pushing it forward, but that it really is organic, and it came from what the, your leaders and their leaders have developed and seen and known over the years. So, you know, having time for traction is a luxury that I don't think a lot of school districts have, and I'm seeing the benefits of that with a document like this, because a few years ago this couldn't have happened. So I appreciate I appreciate how rich this is, and how it's not just language like this language of getting better, but real detail of what does that mean. So I thank you.
Welcome. John?
Oh my God, sorry.
You're on.
Can't hear you, John.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I look forward to the discussion on the 19th. Just more question for the superintendent. Is it anticipated those materials will be available at least a couple of days in advance just to kind of digest, to get ready for that meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be the same plan that I gave you at the workshop prior to this meeting. It'll just be updated. So the 19th, our school committee meeting is on the 14th, and so obviously it won't be ready for that. I believe the next one is the 24th.
Okay.
And if we have the meeting on the 19th, I'm not sure the document will be ready for that one. It might honestly be ready for the first meeting in October, but I would always try to get you the materials the way I got this one
Okay.
to you before
So
that.
I'm sorry, maybe I just misunderstood. What's on the 19th?
The 19th is an internal meeting of our entire core committee, which is
Okay.
made up of about 20 people, where we'll be coming together to discuss the actionable items for 23-24, because the large document just shows the action items for 22-23, and then
Okay.
we'll be revising this larger plan and bringing it back to the committee, more than likely the first meeting in October.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And can you just remind us, because you've had a bunch of changes, who is your leadership team now?
So my leadership team is all of the principals. Do you want me to name them for the public?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, why not?
So we have Miss.
Sorry to put you on the spot
That's
like that,
okay.
because I know once I say it, it's like somebody will inevitably get left off.
I know, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start, I always go high school, middle school, and then so at the high school, we have Mr. Kohut, who is the principal. We have Mrs. Finn, who is the assistant principal. We no longer have a third assistant, or a third administrator at the high school. We have Mr. Kalishman and Ms. Zotto at the middle school. We have Mr. Norkin, who is now principal of Clark's Elementary School. We have Ms. Sanborn, principal of Hadley, with Mr. Knowles, assistant principal at Hadley. And keep in mind, just as a reminder, we're about 380 students there now because all the kindergartens are there, from Blaney as well. We have Mrs. Longan, interim principal at Blaney, and that administrative role is shared with Miss Powers, who is Dean of Students at Blaney. Then we have Assistant Superintendent Martha Raymond, Director of Finance Cheryl Stella, Director of Teaching and Learning Dr. Bacon, Director of Counseling and SEL Mr. Harris, Mr. Craig Harris, Director of Technology and Innovation Ms. Smacky Knowles, and
Mecca.
oh, yep, I'm sorry. Director of our Medco program, our Boston students, is Ms. Ogunbona. And I'm going around my table trying to think of who I might have left off. And Athletic Director, Ms. Kelly Wolf. I think I got everybody. A very positive and talented group of individuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I believe I have one more item on my, actually I have two. I have the concussion policy and I have my goals. So at the workshop, we determined that I would bring forward an overview of the district strategy or core plan, and from there, I would develop some goals. But as I sat to do my goals, you know, they're not just around the district strategy. They really encompass a lot of things that I'm trying to accomplish. And I took the liberty of developing 2-year goals, because I think we have talked about, as I enter my 10th year as your superintendent, that they could be broader and they could be longer. So the one that really, I'll just start out and I'll read them for the public, and then feel free to, you know, poke holes in them, ask questions, whatever. I don't know why I'm having trouble seeing that. But I will. Thank you. So my first goal is communication, which I already feel has been improved even before the school year starts with Parent Square. So achieve comprehensive utilization of Parent Square as the sole communication platform for all relevant stakeholders, ensuring 100% adoption and integration of its features and functionalities with complete implementation across all the departments and user groups by June of 2025. That's my professional practice goal. My second goal is a student improvement goal on classroom instruction. During the next 2 academic years, we'll implement with fidelity the multi-tiered systems of supports, MTSS, across all grade levels, aimed at significantly enhancing both student achievement and overall learning outcomes. By the end of this period, we anticipate a measurable increase of 15% in the percentage of students performing at or above grade level benchmarks in both core subjects and standardized assessments. We've spent a lot of time this summer, Dr. Bacon, meeting with particularly middle school administration to try to strengthen their multi-tiered systems and supports with the students. Sometimes we're hindered a little bit by schedule, but Mr. Kalishman has been incredibly flexible and creative in working with Mrs. Raymond and Dr. Bacon to figure out how we can best support those students.
Are there grade levels we don't do this at currently?
No,
So you're just saying to do it
with fidelity.
like regularly?
We do it best at certain levels. I think there are pockets in other places, and we're really committed to making sure it's happening everywhere. My third goal, district improvement, is curriculum and instruction, and this comes from the core plan. By June 2025, 85% of students, families, and teachers will report that the curriculum and pedagogy of the Swampscott Public Schools meet our definition of culturally responsive and sustaining education. I took that straight from the one-pager, but the goal by 25-26 is 90%, so I would love to hit 90% and can certainly change that for 2025, but I thought I would give a little room for the 2025-2026 school year. My fourth goal is district improvement, the core plan. By June 2025, we'll achieve tangible improvements in family engagement, which is a huge, huge priority for us this year. Expanded opportunities, enhanced respect, and equitable practices leading to school environment where students, families, and staff feel a strong sense of belonging by attaining a 15% increase in the attendance and active participation of parents and families in school events, meetings, and initiatives. Additionally, track a 10% increase in the enrollment of underrepresented student groups in advanced coursework or extracurricular activities. So these tie straight into some of the presentations we've had over the past year in terms of PTO meetings, curriculum nights, back to school nights, but also increasing the number of family engagement opportunities we provide. That's a lot of work that we're already laying the foundation for. And we've often talked, probably for the last 2 or 3 years, about the various groups that are not in the AP classes or not in the honors classes. And so that's where this goal came from in my thoughts. And my last one before you give me your thoughts is obviously the transition. Over the next 2 years, we'll strategically plan, execute, and oversee the successful transition of our 3 elementary schools into a single unified elementary school by achieving at least 90% approval rating from parents, teachers, and community stakeholders in post-transition satisfaction surveys. I'm open to any edits, suggestions. not criticism, constructive criticism.
Want to start?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, looking at it, I was gonna say, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, as we're talking about it and as we're looking at it, these are things that they're already happening.
First of all, they're already happening, and you and I talked about when Mrs. Cooper mentioned dependencies.
Mm.
I have a lot of dependencies.
Noted
help you.
in there,
Well, now I have to go to the action
right.
steps and all of that. I almost brought, and in fact, I did bring, you know, the core work is a huge team of 20 people.
Right.
And it's broken down into subcommittees. So after I get the approval for this, I need to start working on laying out the action items, who the dependencies are, and all
Right.
that.
No, I mean, I think it's great. And I think knowing that these are things that you already sort of have a handle on anyway makes it seem doable.
This isn't all
Even though
brand
looking
new.
at it, that's a lot.
But this isn't all brand new, you're right.
Right,
These
right,
are things that are in progress.
right.
I mean, I already talked about having met with the PTOs, the development of the school councils, talking to the director of facilities. So
Right.
I think I really do have to outline for you the dependencies that are gonna help me accomplish this work.
Okay.
Do you want to say something?
Sure. So I have two sort of overarching things. And the first one is about your first goal. And I appreciate that the utilization and adoption of a way of communicating is really important. I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit here because I think it's not just how we communicate, but what we communicate. And I think I'd like to see something. I have to think about this a little bit more sort of offline, but I feel like it's not just about the tool.
Mm-hmm, you're right.
Because you could send out as many messages as you want, but if it's not giving people what they want to hear, not that what they want to hear, but what they need to hear or feel that they need to hear, then, we can hang our hat on the technology all we want.
I have something to piggyback off that. I was thinking the same thing, and I was sort of thinking this goal looks like a one-year goal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this looks like rolling this out and getting people to use it. It looks like a one-year goal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And then making it more meaningful
yeah,
is like the second year goal, or evaluating what's good, having a survey at the end of the first year, what's good and bad, what do you want to see more of, what do you want to see less of, and making it a more meaningful tool for communication.
so for example,
You know what I'm saying?
for example, I think about when the elementary schools rolled out their, their weekly newsletters. And it was filled with information like dates and, but not necessarily what everybody wanted to know. What, some of the meatier stuff, some of, like what, and why we're doing things. So I'd like to see that worked in there. The other thought is not so much about the goals, but about how the goals tie into the core plan. And I think I have to read the core plan over again. But one of the things that strikes me about this is how our core plan is so much about behavior and not necessarily academics. And so I say this as a devil's advocate because I know the intent behind it, but as I look at some of these things about, who we envision ourselves, with respect and explicit, intention to be anti-biased, anti-racist, but then I also think about what is on our vision of a graduate, which has so much to do. And when we get in here, you're looking at your number 2 goal about this multi-tiered system.
But that's within this core plan.
So
There has to,
So I think what it is that I think some of the language in the core plan doesn't capture that tactic of learning.
Like I was looking at this, I had the exact, we're having the exact same reaction to this. Like I was looking at curriculum instruction and thinking, we're we're making sure we teach the pedagogy of this plan, but let's make sure we're teaching academics.
Mhm.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? And like, it just has to, like, this is happening, and I think like all the goals can't be 100% focused on this plan. They have to sort of, I mean, I get like learning is happening and all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? And I think that you can teach problem solving and you can teach critical thinking within this framework for sure, because those discussions, especially with the older kids, hands down are the same thing. But I just think there's
I think this is also maybe what gets some people itchy about DEI issues, is, you know, this idea of if it is solely wrapped in, you know, respect and anti-bias and anti-racism, it's not, it's like, but are we teaching math? And I know, because I know that we are. But what I think that I'm saying is that I'd like to be able to make sure that some of the language and the core side does, so that this couldn't be just the core plan for a corporation, or that is very specifically an educational institution. Because at the end of the day, what do we have to do? We have to teach our kids to read and write and do math.
like, I think that the second one, like curriculum instruction, you know, will meet our definitions of culturally responsive and sustaining education, you know, through examples in different subjects or at different, you know, like how are you showing this in the math class?
Yeah, so it's not so much, it's not like a pick at a specific thing, because I know that it's happening, but to be able to capture that language and to sort of drive home that this is about education.
So my take, if I could, I think both points are accurate. To me, a goal is an overarching view of the system. A goal, in my opinion, having gone through this with you, I know a lot, and other superintendents, the more specific we get on a goal, the more challenging it is, because once you reach that goal, that's it, you're done, cross that off, check that box. To me, for a school district, the goals need to be really up here. I do agree, Amy, with you on goal one. I'd like to, I think I'd like to see a little bit more from a personal level as far as communication, but not, you're never gonna satisfy everybody. Some people are gonna say, you mail too much. Some people are gonna say, you don't mail enough. Some people are gonna say, I don't wanna read something that's 5 paragraphs. I wanna read 2 sentences, end of story, done. We all know that, and I'm afraid to say, when you send out something long, no one reads the first paragraph. That's just human nature. So I think the goals are fine. I would say, just really specific on goal number 5, where you say 90%. Great goal. I think that's a little robust. I think for anyone, that's a little robust. It's a great, again, it's an overarching goal, but I think that's setting you up to fail. I mean, you're not going to get 90% of anybody to agree on anything. But I think there are some parts that it can be a little bit more specific, but for me, a goal is kind of in the cloud. And then you work your way down to me, what the core is.
Can I jump in there?
You guys, I'm just biting my tongue right now.
Can I
So
jump
go
in on
ahead,
that?
Go ahead.
So I think that where we've struggled in the past few years is when we do have goals that are loftier, that they become things that are a little squishy, they're hard to measure, and that having some specificity and more like SMART goals is important, because if you just say, I'm going to become a better communicator, what does that mean? How do you manage that, and how do you judge somebody based on that? So over the years, we've kind of we have gotten more specific
We've also gotten more specific because we've had to, like the Massachusetts, the system for educator evaluations, right, is telling us they have to be SMART goals,
Yeah.
right? And Pam's gonna have to come up, the superintendent's gonna have to come up with action items, and those action items are gonna be proof that this happened, right? And I think it's okay not to achieve a goal. Matter of fact, I think it's okay that when we revisit this, like midway through the year, when we do the mid-year eval, or the 1 year eval, because it's a 2-year goal, if we readjust anything, right, or make modifications to these goals because either there's some sort of impediment keeping you from achieving it or something's changed, that's like, I think that mid-year correction or mid-goal cycle correction is really important, but I think these goals are actually kind of broad. I mean, the measurement, 15% increase or 90%, approval, those are pretty specific, but I think in general, these goals, they have a lot of different action items that could prove them, I think.
So that was my intent, to keep the goals very broad, and as I do the action items and the backup for this, that's where the specificity is going to be. What I heard and what I really liked is breaking goal 1 into 2 years, and year 1 is accomplishing what I already have, and year 2, at the end of year 1, I heard of asking, surveying or evaluating what was the good, what was the bad, and then tweaking what I'm communicating. And I know that I can definitely can communicate more about curriculum and instruction and instructional practice than I have in the past, not just housekeeping things. And so I like the idea of breaking that into 2 years, but I deliberately kept these broad, thinking that the next step for me is to go into the backup and start putting the deadlines and the action items, and that's where it's going to get more specific. So I was not trying to do everything at once here. I was trying to give a big umbrella, and then I'm going to break down things behind that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and this ties back to what we did a few years ago when we had remember when we were on our agendas, there was like a link to
Yes.
what specifically so when you were reporting in on things, that this
Yes.
report, that this specifically led to
Tied
goal
to-
3
Yep.
through X, Y, Z,
We've
so
had-
that,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
that at the end of the year, you weren't like,
You had
handing
your
us this
evidence
binder of
already,
evidence.
yeah.
And that's what I'm going to continue to do in some shape or form
And I
this year.
think also when you were asking people to do presentations, I know we talked about the thing you're gonna give them,
Yes.
the format you're gonna give them will also say, for people who are presenting to have on their slide,
Working
how does
towards.
this affect the budget? Like, what do you want from the school committee, or how can we help you kind of slide, and how does this fit into the district goal,
Mhm.
I think that's awesome.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
There was a
it's like-
sheet from MASC that we pulled up.
Yeah, like they're gonna have to sort of,
Do their homework so that you
Yes.
don't have to.
Yes.
Right.
right, but I think that, I mean, I know we talked a lot about, at the workshop, I know we talked a lot about evaluations and that we don't have a role in sort of the quality of education that's happening here, and making, and our only tool is to make sure it's happening.
Yeah.
And sort of, I was hoping to see a goal that kind of reflected some of that, and it does, but it doesn't.
I ran out of space. If you'd like me to trade
No.
one of these out. I did think of that, like the evaluation that we talked about.
I just,
But I imagine it would go on to curriculum instruction.
yeah,
I mean, as when I get to an action item, I can put it under one of these broader,
like this curriculum and instruction action item, to me, is a 25-26, but 23-25, or 24-25, but 23-24, whatever, could be, like, this coming year could be evaluation, or, creating that tool and rolling that tool out and evaluating that tool, and save this curriculum and instruction goal for later.
I hear you.
I'm sorry, I
No.
don't want you to add something new, I just want.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I just know we talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we talked, that was a big piece of our,
That makes a lot of sense.
But, sorry, John, we don't mean to ignore you. Sorry, go ahead.
Not ignoring me. I think this has actually been a really good conversation. I've just been taking it in. Couple things. I picked up on something Glenn said about the more specific some particular goal is, the harder it is to actually achieve that goal. I think the way that the superintendent has put targets in each of these, the percentages. I think it's a good thing. And acknowledging what the superintendent just said, that she keeps these broad, on purpose, which I think for this is appropriate, but I think having those specific targets in here is a good thing, because, like Suzanne said, if we're going to revisit this at a mid-year evaluation, then, we need some metric to evaluate again. So I think having those in here is good. I guess I do have a question as well, just on some of these target percentages. I guess specifically on 3 and on 5, where it talks about 85% of the students, families, and teachers, then it's 90% approval ratings. I just want to know, are those numbers going to be on the entire school population that's being surveyed, or is it 85% of the respondents who respond to a particular survey or something like that? Do you know what I mean? So if 50 people respond and 85% of them say great, are we saying goal met, or is it going to be something a little more representative? Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. I wish I could get 100%, I wish I could get all families to respond to everything. So I hear what you're saying. What I can commit to is doing my best to get as many respondents as I can in each case. Number 3 my intent would be district-wide. Number 5, it would be the elementary families, obviously. So that would be, I can work really hard.
I'm thinking if you get 100% adoption with the parent square, the survey goes out on that, you get 100%.
My goal is always to get the maximum number of respondents. I think timing has a lot to do with things. By the end of the year, you're going to get less respondents than you might in an October survey. It's so I think I have to be strategic, and when those surveys go out, and how they go out, and if I agree with you, Parent Square seems to be already catching on, because the button I like on that with a post or notice is how many people appreciate it. Yeah. It's a little heart. All they do is click the heart and says they appreciate it. So that's engagement to me, is that, okay, thanks for sending this. Right. So it's not a clear answer, John. I mean, I'm always looking to get the maximum number of people. I just have to be conscious of that when I'm surveying people.
Well, that makes sense. And I think, just for us to have the right context, however many respond, if you're able to include that, in whatever reports you're bringing back to us, I think that would be helpful as well.
Sure.
I'd like to request too that when you're doing the next step of this, that you identify where your baseline measurements are. Because 15% increase in attendance, whatever, I think we just need to know that, today what the attendance is, or just make sure you capture that data so that it's measurable.
Okay, can do that. Thank you.
So what are next steps here? What do we do?
Well, superintendent needs to develop action items. We can put this, this is sort of in the format that we've always been doing it, right? So now the action item comes and the standards that we're going to measure it with.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right?
I'll be working on that.
Those.
Yep. And I'll bring it to the committee.
Okay.
And then we'll do like a first read and then vote in it, I guess.
Okay.
And from this, we're gonna talk about our goals in a second.
Yes, but we're gonna do the concussion policy.
Yeah.
So the last thing I have is that the concussion policy is required to be reviewed every 2 years, because we have to send a letter into the state, and ours is due in September of 2023, so we've brought it before you. I don't believe we tracked any changes, or I believe there were any changes. It's just something that the committee is required to do, so I don't feel qualified to.
I think that if Mrs. Wolf hasn't said anything to you about changes that need to be made to this, or her her athletic advisory council hasn't, I don't know. I can't. It's been the same policy for a while, and I'm sure.
Working.
I'm sure maybe you can ask her to revisit it next time we do this, but
Right.
for now.
You know, has there been any changes at the MIAA level? Is there anything new? And if not, you know, she would know better.
Yeah, like have to depend on her for
Right,
making
so-
sure this is right, so.
So, just so the rest of the committee is aware, even though I'm gonna ask for a vote on this to adopt, we've moved the votes down to a different section, so we're just discussing it now, but,
Okay.
it should be fine. There, you know, she and I have been in communication about the athletic handbook, and this is fine where it is. This is basically, checking a box and us sending a letter to the Department of Public Health. So, without further discussion, we'll move on to the chairs and we'll come, report, and we'll come back to vote on this.
Moving right along.
Do you want me to keep the agenda up or no?
Yeah, keep the agenda up for now, because, yeah. So, superintendent just did her goals, and we were talking about waiting for her to sort of, share her goals so that as a school committee, we could think of our goals, because we need them to be in line, and, I already, when you look at this core plan, I already see that we are gonna be asked to do something. In this plan, it talks about the school committee and adopting, inclusive language, and, I noticed that as I've been going through policies that the MASC has been, updating, so many of the policies are just changing pronouns from his and her to they or them. So, I think that doing a review of those policies and making sure that the language, I think a policy review is something we should be doing,
Yeah, absolutely. A lot has changed in even just a few short years.
right? There's some new language that policies have to adopt to a broader, protected class. It needs to go into some of the policies. So, making sure we get those policies adopted this year maybe is a good goal. I don't know, I mean,
I agree.
I would agree.
Just
Yep.
probably start, I mean, having never done policy you've done in the past, do we start at the top? Are there larger policies we do first and kind of whittle our way
so,
down?
so we did, Karen and I, a long time ago, like in 2017, did, a cleanup of the entire policy manual, so everything sort of got updated to that year,
Right,
which was huge, because there was some
A lot
sitting
of
there from a while.
right.
And, so that was great. And then the MASC just did a review maybe, in the 20s, the early, maybe 19 or 20, they handed out maybe 40 or 50 policies that they had updated, and we went through and we did those policies, and then last March, we just got another policy update from them, and those are the ones that John and I are slowly going through, and, those are the ones, so those are the ones, there's a spreadsheet, I shared a drive with all of you guys that has a spreadsheet of all those, of every single policy we have and sort of where they are. It's in,
When did you share that spreadsheet?
I shared it
Yeah.
probably months ago, but,
Oh.
I'll share it again, I shared a whole folder, so what, the folder has the spreadsheet of all the policies we're working on, and then, there's a folder for A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and the proposed new changes are all in there, so it's like sort of ready to go to sort of start talking about these policies. I mean, I'll send it to you again, Amy, if you can't find it. It's probably something in here shared with you.
I'm thinking policy subcommittee is probably
I don't know.
the policies to be updated.
It says 2023 on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, are
so,
the ones that MASC updated in 19 or 20, did those already reflect?
no, a lot of them don't reflect
Didn't, so,
pronouns. So,
okay.
so there's a lot right now that are getting changed. I mean, they're really simple. I think they've just been sort of glossed over until
Right.
there's like another issue to change a policy, but we don't
Right.
need to wait for
Right.
another issue
Mhm.
to change that. I mean, it just seems more inclusive, just to change it, but,
Okay.
I mean, I think if you start doing a search of policies and just do the word his, you'll start, things
Right.
will pop up, right? But, I don't know, if you guys, I just think that that's something we can do to advance sort of the core initiative,
I completely agree.
you know?
I completely agree. Wholeheartedly.
Yes, that
So-
sounds
I
good.
would agree.
And does anyone have another, I know we talked about
We
professional
talked about
development.
maybe, I was gonna say, we talked about maybe each person doing some sort of PD and then bringing it back to the whole group and sharing.
Yeah, like, do you
Right.
sign
Yeah,
up for
double
something
the-
right away?
I've already signed up.
Oh, what'd you sign up for?
They are, there is an MASC is doing a roundtable regarding artificial intelligence in school districts and school committees.
Awesome.
How to manage that policy. Gonna get into what is considered
What's cheating?
cheating and where that line is. So I'm excited to go. I mean, it's really interesting to me anyways, because I use it professionally. So I did sign up for that, and I will, I'm gonna go. And actually, it's in person, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
And I'll come back and do a PowerPoint presentation. It's in November, early November.
Would it be good for a teacher or an administrator to go on?
I can send you the outline and.
Well, it's the MASC, MASs joint conference. I
Right,
did
right,
get it as well, but,
I think for educators, it was 3 days. For
yeah,
school committee members, it was 1 day.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure our top tech guru was all over that.
He's probably teaching it.
I'm interested to hear how you receive it, you know,
Yeah.
so.
I'd be interested in the policy implications too.
See,
like,
that
you
was the
know,
thing too, is that they are gonna have, after this, I guess symposium is probably the best, they are gonna roll out a policy for, for statewide, to see how that goes, so I'll bring all that back.
Okay, good.
So I think it's a great goal for you, since you can
Right.
already check it off, but.
Yeah.
I was interested in knowing more about your, the seed training. I don't know if that's something that would be
Yeah.
appropriate to
I'll,
take part in.
dig it.
If you haven't done the seed training, it's very thought-provoking. I think it's the best.
It can be uncomfortable.
Okay.
I'll say it.
It is incredibly uncomfortable. But I don't say uncomfortable in a bad way.
No,
It's
no.
uncomfortable that it forces you to think about, I can't believe I reacted this way 10, 20 years ago yesterday. And it really makes you look inside of yourself, of the biases that we all have, that we think we don't have. And there were definitely moments of, I really said that?
Or I thought it was okay to say that.
I
Right,
thought it
that's
was
the bigger point.
That's the bigger point,
I thought
I
it was
think.
okay to say that.
I thought I was a good person saying
Right.
that,
And
and
you
not thinking about how it
realize-
was being received.
Yeah, and you realize that the receiver of your message can be completely taken back by it.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend, it's really an interesting take, it really is.
All right, so we have 2 school committee goals, professional development, to do and share.
Policy
And
review,
then, a policy review, with the
core
the sort of
slant.
core lens.
Yeah.
All right, so that's awesome. I'll write something up, and we'll talk about it next time,
Okay.
because I think this will be easy to make a SMART goal for.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's an easy one. All right, so subcommittees, really, at this point, we don't have a negotiation subcommittee. We do budget committee of the whole, so policy is really the committee.
Well, I think there's negotiations, because there are often things that sort of come up along the way that might not be the grander, well, first of all, we're still in the process of negotiating with our newest union. That has not, that we're gonna kick back into gear with, that is our tutors.
All right.
But then, there are also things that occasionally that subcommittee is involved with. For example, that group handled the Nahant contract last time. So,
Okay, all right, I mean, it's just,
So I would argue-
this might be a light lifting committee.
I would argue that it still exists, though.
All right, does someone-
Not light lifting as it relates to negotiating with the tutors.
No, I'm saying like, it's just maybe won't be as time consuming as policy, especially given this is
I
our
would-
goal.
all right.
So is, like, someone wanna, be on this?
I'd like to be on that.
Me-
Oh, wait, what are we talking about?
And John, we're talking about negotiations?
Okay.
Stay on it, leave it?
I'm fine saying,
What do you say?
He's fine staying.
Oh, okay.
Is that,
That's
On-
fine with me.
On
All right.
negotiations?
Yeah.
yeah, does anyone?
So who is it? I don't want.
John,
Me
John
and
and-
John.
Okay.
That's currently who it is right now.
And I did it before too.
Huh?
I did it before too, you guys. It's all yours.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Wait, were you on it last year? I just thought you,
I still,
Took
when
over.
I was chair, I stopped.
oh. I was like, wait, you took over not
Yeah,
long.
when I was chair, so I did, I think John and I did 3
Yeah,
contracts.
Yeah, you did like the
Yeah.
secretaries
Yeah.
and the,
Custodians,
yep.
and
Custodials.
admins.
All right, how about policy?
I mean, I'll help I don't have anything right now, so I'll help on that.
And Suzanne, you are so good at it.
John, you want off policy or you want to stay on policy?
I'd prefer to stay on. You know, we could certainly talk offline about, you know, putting some more structure around the work assignments and things like that, but, yeah, I would like to stay on if it's possible.
If we're doing like a full
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yes, like I will not argue with that.
Suzanne, if we're doing like a full review, could it be, you know, more than 2 people can be on the subcommittee, but only 2 people meet just to, because
I don't
2
think
people
so.
have to do
I don't
200
think,
odd.
Well, no, because you're bringing everything to the full committee.
Right, oh, you're right.
But
I was just-
could you task somebody with, go look at these?
Wait,
That's all I'm
the-
kinda
the
saying,
good-
'cause
The
it's a
good
lot of
news
work.
is, honestly, the good news is, I did it.
It's already
I
done.
mean, I haven't done, I've been working on the things that came in March that I've been talking to you about that we're gonna have to update, right?
Right.
So you're done.
There's a lot, there is more to do,
But there's a lot.
but there's a lot that's done.
Okay.
So I think that, I would never, ever, you know, I'm too controlling to just go along. So, all right, so, I guess this is a vote we'll have to take when we take votes?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we take votes on this?
We don't
We don't
take
take
votes,
votes on
no.
this, we just,
We don't?
just agree.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. And then the next thing,
Is the
was
protocols?
the protocol. So, for those of you that don't know, the school committee has operating protocols and, sort of behaviors, like how we govern, how we treat each other, how we communicate. And, at our,
Suzanne, excuse me, just there were 2 other things that were on the agenda, Metco and,
oh, yeah, that's right, sorry, liaisons.
yeah, just the liaisons.
Oh, yeah, we were gonna identify liaisons
Sorry.
too. Thanks, thanks, Glenn.
Is it a safe assumption that you'd like to stay
I'll
as
continue
the
with,
CPAC?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, we need a METCO liaison. What else do we say?
I'm sorry,
No, it's okay.
I keep moving this from
I
this
have the
one.
agenda, sorry. METCO, CPAC, FinCom. We were talking about having a liaison to FinCom.
But then we also said maybe we would take turns going to
Right.
some of those meetings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
FinCom was easier than Select Board.
Right.
FinCom was once a month, right?
Okay.
Select Board is,
I'm very happy to do FinCom.
Well, so I think one of the things that's important is that the tri-chair begin
yeah,
again.
so that's in, the chair, Select Board Chair's hands right now. He's trying to arrange something.
Okay. I hope, and this is outside of subcommittee, I hope that along with that is a conversation for all 3 boards to get together for a summit before it's too late and we get into budget season
Yeah,
and
we're
they
gonna,
say,
so
oh,
when,
it's too late.
so when Cheryl's back from vacation next week, I think that we'll have a little powwow.
Okay. I'd like to, I think I'd like to treat those 2 meetings as sort of the same, that we're all rotating in through and watching and reporting back.
Okay, so.
Because ultimately, at least I found this when I was chair, that the questions that they had of us and we of them wound up going through the chair, because I think just because of the import of it, and because the person who we should be speaking to is the chair of their committee. So kind of making that connection of the tri-chair that much more meaningful.
But going to the meetings,
So going to the meetings, I think we all should just kind of cycle in and out, just as a matter of
Okay, but we can't just say that without having a schedule.
Oh, we can put a
So,
schedule together, like in the same way that we would with the select board meeting.
okay, so should I get a list of all the
Do you want me to
meeting
put,
dates?
do you want me to put it, like,
Yes, I do.
okay, I will make the schedule
You could,
for consideration.
yeah, well, if you make a schedule and it could just be a sign up,
Right.
right? And we could just, like, if you have blank dates and we can all fill in dates that we can make. And then if you can't make a date, you find your own sub,
Okay.
just like, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, because it's not really a liaison, because you're
Yeah.
not
It's just like-
participating.
You're not participating.
Right.
Right.
I just think, given
There's
even
one.
some of the things that were already said in the last select board meeting, I think we need to be there to hear
Uh-huh,
what is said,
I agree.
just from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And again, I completely agree, you sign up, you go, and we come back and you share what you heard. I just think it's really important that we do
Okay,
that.
so we'll be rotating.
I think it also might be very interesting too, in case the members of those meetings are in turn watching us.
Right.
If what we hear and report back is what they heard and reported back.
That's a really good point.
Like, honestly, I think there are things that probably sound like a throwaway comment at any meeting that hits some people.
Right.
Right.
That they might be interested to hear was actually even interesting to anyone else, or
Right.
vice versa.
I completely agree.
Mhm.
All right, so, a MECO liaison? I was it before, I mean, I'm happy to
What is it,
continue.
like, what does that entail?
I've been going to their PCO meetings.
Yeah,
Once a month, and
They're-
usually Zoom,
They're
right?
usually once a month, they're on Zoom.
I think I can do that.
I've been going to the PTO meetings and the things that happen here. Like, the things that are in town or things that they get invited to down.
Can I split it with someone?
No.
Anybody want to join me?
Yeah, I don't mind
Or
doing, I
like-
don't mind doing it.
You don't?
I don't mind doing it.
I just
It's-
don't, I want to be mindful of not dumping
Um,
everything on you.
No, it's okay, because, I'm starting to really meet the families and learn who they are. It's sort of nice. It's nice
Okay.
when they're in town, I feel like.
I'll be your backup if you need.
All right. Okay, so protocols. The protocols, how we behave and act, and we sat at our meeting and we ranked which ones we thought we did good and which ones we thought we needed some improvement, and we had a lot of discussion, and sort of we came up with, I thought, some really good ideas. Like one idea was the agenda and how do you get items on the agenda. We were all sort of confused about that, and we decided to create a sort of a dump folder, and that has been created. I shared it with you guys. It's just a place, like, we're not discussing anything, but you have ideas, just stick them in there. And Amy, I stuck your ideas in there that you had
Thank you.
emailed. We talked about public comment and returning to it, and had some really good ideas. We have a time clock now, a 3-minute countdown clock that will show behind us, so that people who are taking public comment, like, we don't need to interrupt them, or they can just see how much time they have left. And then also having people on Zoom sign up for public comment, just like they do here, with their full name and their address, so that we sort of know who's speaking to us, and turning on their camera if they have a camera and they can do so would really something we talked about wanting to do. And we also had a conversation about donations, and I have more information coming on that. Dorothy Presser is talking to someone right now about sort of what the school, where the school committee's role sort of ends or starts with donations, and what our role really is and our responsibility. So I'll get back to you on that. And then the last thing was, we talked about new member orientation. Did you find my book?
I thought Nancy found it.
She did?
Well,
All
still
right.
don't know.
I
right.
thought she might have communicated that with you.
She
I
did.
will check.
She did not. so,
Okay.
we do have a new orientation.
And the chair
book.
is not bitter about it at all.
No. I tasked her with
Where
that.
is my book?
Maybe she didn't close the loop and send it to you, but I think she found it.
Oh.
Be sure to make sure that bitterness is inserted in those,
Yeah.
it can be read in those notes.
I will go in the morning and ask her, did you find her book?
And the
Yes or
last thing
no?
was, Glenn had a great
Yes.
suggestion to add a new section to the limits of our authority. And so I put in a bullet here that we were just going to discuss before we voted on this. We shall. It's on the back page too. It just says we shall. Go to the next page, Pam.
Isn't this it, right here? We
Oh,
shall.
yeah. No, the bottom one here. We shall separate our roles as school committee members and district parent. Initial interactions with staff regarding issues with our children
We
we
will.
will acknowledge our roles as school committee members, but reiterate our businesses solely as parent. I didn't write email the superintendent. I don't know, like, if there's a place to put that in there, or it doesn't matter, like we talked about, sort of.
Like, do you wanna be included on the, like, I have to talk to this teacher
I
about
don't need to know.
Okay.
Does the teacher want that? Does the teacher feel more comfortable?
Well, so what I used to say was, I don't think that's overly necessary, because, right now, there's only, a couple of us with kids. At some point, there could be 5.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of communication to the superintendent. It's really letting the teacher know that I'm a school committee member, but I'm here as, Joe or Josephine's parent. And if you think I overstep my bounds, feel free to come.
Yeah, I think
Gotcha,
that's the
okay.
important part,
Right,
is
so-
to let them know that they
They have
can
an
go.
outlet.
Yeah.
Right.
They
Right.
have a clear outlet that if one of us, if I say blah, 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 they have a clear outlet of what to do.
Yeah,
I think it just clears the role a little
Yeah.
bit.
All right, so.
I think that's a really good
So
idea.
this will stay, I'll just put the word we will acknowledge our
Yeah.
role.
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll vote on this, and then, you'll have to all sign it.
Right.
That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And, subcommittees, this is, Glenn, we'd like to
Yes.
close the loop publicly on the Nahant contract.
The contract that just wouldn't go away. So what I on the screen, and what I gave to all you, is the official contract, memorandum of understanding between the Swampscott School Committee and the Nahant School Committee. It's addendum number 2 for the FY '23 to FY '27 contract. Basically, it's having incoming 6th graders from Nahant come to Swampscott for the next 2 years. It spells out exactly what we had already discussed and approved, the dollar amount per student. What you're looking at was done by the representative, the lawyers from both sides, so it has the legal language. There has been 0 changes since our discussions. However, to close the loop, wanted to show everybody this. I've signed it, and when we get to it, we'll just have a vote on it. But there's been 0 changes. It is just really put into legal language.
So you have a signed copy that I should probably take with me,
Yes.
scan, and send it
Correct.
to them? Okay.
Yes, and although I signed it, could you sign it as well, because you're the new chair? I just think that's.
Oh, yeah, I will.
so what's the difference between the vote that we're taking now versus the one that we took?
We're just,
Well,
this is the legal
I
language
think-
now.
But I also think in June, we hadn't, you
Right, you had a
well,
question on it.
you had questioned because we hadn't read it or seen it.
So
And
there-
we were voting on it, and we said we would hold off so that we would actually have the physical contract to read, because we didn't read it before taking the vote, and we said, we'll take a vote,
On the
because we want this to
concepts,
move
right.
forward, right? Like,
Right.
we're gonna do it,
So
but
I
we,
need to read this.
so it
Okay.
was just about, closing the loop.
Okay.
Right.
We did take a vote, we're just taking another one to reaffirm.
Right, we already voted on
Well, I think in
the
particular
number of
because the
students,
lawyers.
the,
The lawyers.
Yeah.
dollar
Lawyer issue
amounts.
too, because, so our lawyers and their lawyers are technically the same, so there's legal documentation that had to go back and forth, and that just took time for everybody to get together. Again, we're off in the summertime, and so this was the time to close that loop. There's no language change whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereases have been added.
All right, I'm just trying to figure out if my vote should coincide with my vote then, and I have my answer.
All right, and so the school building committee, I was just gonna share with you just a quick,
I'm gonna stop sharing.
yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Make this big. How do I make this big?
I think it is.
All right, so, this is a time lapse, it's really quick, so don't blink. It's the last month. Watch the left side. It's exciting.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Right?
Building. It's a
It's
school.
real.
So, so you see the brick one up on the left side,
Yeah.
and the classrooms are all framed in there, like not wall boarded, but framed in, and probably almost all the way to the middle of the building now. And on the left, inside those cones, those are the geothermal wells that have been dug.
Oh.
More than half the wells on the site have been dug. So
Will you play it one more time?
Huh?
Will you play it one more time?
Oh, yeah.
While it's playing, I do want to tell you, we capped off our leadership retreat by, I took everybody on the site.
Oh, great.
They allowed it. They were,
Here it goes. Oh, sorry.
Excited?
Mr. Kalishman was in tears.
Oh.
So proud to live in this community.
All right, ready? Don't blink.
That makes me blank.
I actually have a minute video, but it was like too long. I had it slowed down, but.
That's amazing
That's
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah, it's really going up. The roof, it should all be roofed, the roof should be, watertight, it probably is today. I mean, it probably is now. Yeah, it's great. So,
That's amazing.
Are they gonna share that? Because I'd love to send that out to,
I can give this to you.
that'd be
It's-
great.
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah,
it's
no,
fun
it's-
to watch.
it's fun to watch,
When I
right?
sent it to the staff, they're in awe.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see this happening because you
'Cause it's so
can't,
around the
you
corner.
can't see it.
Yeah.
You can't drive by and see it. It
Right.
has to be kind of intentional. I mean, when the trees are without leaves, you probably will have a better view, but
Mhm.
it has to be really intentional to see it.
Yeah.
How are
amazing.
things with neighbors?
We had a neighborhood meeting, a week and a half ago now. They were upset. There's a handful of neighbors that continue to be upset about the noise and the disruption. And there's plenty of neighbors that aren't. The two people close to the building on two different sides, actually 3 people didn't show up and haven't even ever emailed me other than something nice. But there are neighbors, and it is disruptive, and there's 100 workmen on site.
Yeah.
So parking is an issue, and they've been using the middle school, but it's tight, and now we're using the easement. And there was a funeral today, so we didn't use the easement, but that was where the trucks had to go because Whitman Ave was closed because there was some blasting happening in there. So it's just like Tetris every day for those people moving supplies around the site to get parking on the site, or put them on the roof, put them inside, like just everything's just moving all the time to make use of such tight space. So it has been really disruptive to the neighbors, and they just are like, stop the noise.
Yeah.
And it'll stop. It'll go inside soon, and it'll quiet down. But
Yeah.
it's not pleasant. I'm sorry for all of them that have to listen to this. It's not pleasant. But yeah. And what was the next thing? Let me just stop sharing my screen and go back to the agenda.
So now we come to,
No.
public comment.
Oh, yeah, public comment. No one has signed up here, and there are no signups on the Q&A, so I'm not gonna give my public comment speech. I'll just wait on it, but,
I do have that, I do have the letter.
oh, yeah, sorry, and we do have, someone had emailed a letter that wanted this, read into, the minutes.
So this was sent to Suzanne and I. It CC'd Mary Ellen Fletcher. This is from Betty Gallo of Precinct 6. In response to the article that was in the item a week ago or so, she said, I just read the item the suggestion of stopping virtual participation in your meetings. I strongly urge you not to go down this route. Every resident should have access to public comment, and while I understand the challenges, I have a few suggestions. 1, limit the talk time to 3 minutes. 2, set clear rules as to what's appropriate and what is not to let the residents know if they become hostile, they will be muted. Freedom of speech is our right, is stated in the Constitution. If you choose to silence residents, you send the wrong message. Please add my email to your next meeting, pass along to the superintendent and other members. Thank you for all you do for our children in our town. So, if I could just say in response, I responded to her, disappointed that of all the things that we talked about at our our meeting together, that this was what was reported, particularly since the decision was made to not go down this route. So I spoke with Ms. Gallo, who was pleased to hear that, that people won't be silenced. But and one of the things that Ms. Gallo and I talked about was this idea of setting clear rules as to what is appropriate, and that hostile comments will be muted, and the fact that that is not our right to do that, which she was not, she didn't realize that the change in law meant that that we can't mute people. So she was appreciative of the response, thanked us all for our work, and was excited to hear more about what the district was doing. So thank you, Ms. Gallo.
All right, thank you. All right, on to our actions and votes. Concussion policy, we discussed to keep it as it is and vote on it. So does someone want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the concussion policy as written.
I'll make a second.
All right, all those, I'm gonna do a roll call because John is home. John?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The school committee protocol, we discussed adding the suggestion by Glenn to say we shall separate our roles as school committee members and district parent. Initial interactions with staff regarding issues with our children in initial interactions with staff regarding issues with our children, we will acknowledge our role as school committee member, but reiterate our business is solely as parent. I need someone to,
I will make a motion to accept as written the updated school committee protocols.
I'll second.
all those in favor? John?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
All right, donations.
Are you a yes?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
The one thing that isn't on here is the vote for the contract,
Oh. Yeah,
but it does say above,
It does say above, vote. Or does it?
Just says will be reviewed.
well, it's okay because we voted on it.
It was voted
so,
on already.
okay.
The Geron family donation is pretty awesome. They donated $1,000 to the athletic department for the unified sports program. The Geron family's been really generous over the years. So I would like to accept their $1,000 donation.
I'll make a motion to accept.
And a second?
Second.
Great. John?
He's muted.
You're muted.
Are you looking for a yes, Suzanne?
Yes? Is that what you
Yes.
said? All right, sorry.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
All right, super. The class
You
of,
too. You have to.
oh, yes, yes.
Get used to it.
Donation from the class, the Swampscott High School class of 51. This one's pretty awesome. The class president, Harold Levy, donated the remainder of their balance from the class funds of $1,088 for educational supplies and books for the high school.
Awesome.
Pretty
Nice.
great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nice.
I know, 1951.
Nice. Wow.
And they're just emptying the bank now. Pretty awesome. All right, so all those in favor? Glenn?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Oh, yeah. Didn't we do that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, God.
It's okay.
Just want to.
It's because
It's
it's
a
not a consent agenda.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's a
I
lot.
forgot.
So it's just a change.
All right.
So I'll make the motion to accept.
Second.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Well, yes.
And Swampscott Youth Basketball. Remember I said to give me some leeway?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
All right.
We're-
Just need it now.
We're looking out for you. It's okay.
Swampscott Youth Basketball, Jerry Cerruti of the Swampscott Youth Basketball, which is a town league, has donated $7,887 from the Swampscott Youth Basketball program to donate 4 new basketball hoops at the middle school. It's pretty great. I know Max knows about it. They're going in the gym at the middle school. It's to help, you know, update that facility and encourage, you know, basketball in the school and in the community. So another great donation. So I need someone to make a motion to accept that.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
All right, Glenn,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So that just takes us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the district. The school committee may adopt the entire consent agenda with motion. At the request of any committee member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. On the agenda are the regular session minutes from June 22nd and from August 10th, our workshop.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Perfect.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, John,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So, people, that leads us to the end of the meeting.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
All right, if you don't want to adjourn, just raise your hand, John, otherwise we're gonna adjourn.
All in favor, yeah.
All right.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Amy, so I'm gonna sign that just.